Okay, so our first question, am I audible? Is my screen visible? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so our first question here for today is, which part of the brain controls balance and coordination? And before we go into solving the questions, I have few questions on the brain, the eyes, and then other sense organs for the zoology part today. So I'll just explain in brief some of the part of our brain. As you can all see from the figure here, from the diagram that I have pasted here. So the cerebrum, let us first discuss the cerebrum first. And the first cerebrum is, it is, the largest part of our brain, that is the cerebrum. And some of the important functions are, it controls, first is, it is associated with reasoning. The second important function is thinking. Emotions. And some of the functions of the different parts of brain may overlap because they coordinate and work together. Control of voluntary muscles. It's mean the movement. When I say voluntary muscles, it's talking about the voluntary muscles, and it also controls the sensory processing and interpretation, such as sight, of sound, of color, and all those things. So this is basically some of the important functions of the cerebrum. And then the second is the cerebellum. The B, second option, is the cerebellum. And some of the important functions of this cerebellum are it controls balance, coordination, and also it ensures and help in assist in the motor skills. Motor skills. In this, it helps in the motor skills, as in it ensures that movements are smooth, precise, and also in addition to that, it helps in to maintain our posture and equilibrium of our body. The posture and equilibrium, maintaining of this posture and equilibrium of our body refers to your ability to stay upright, or balancing your body when you are walking in different type of terrain. It tells your brain, along with some other organs, of course, it tells the brain that you are in a difficult terrain, in a different type of terrain, and then it helps you coordinate, and then it helps you maintain your balance, the equilibrium of the body. And then in these motor skills here, in the third, the motor skills that I'm talking about is when it controls and coordinates your movement, the movement of your muscles to perform a specific task. Coordinate and control the muscles, coordinate and controlling of muscles in order to enable the performance of a specific task, which are done daily, such as walking, writing, playing sports. And this Motor skills can also be further subclassified into two categories, that is gross motor skills. Gross motor skills, and this means this gross motor skills involve the larger muscles, larger muscle group for bigger daily task like walking, running, jumping, or throwing, etc. And then the second is the fine motor skills, which involves the smaller group of muscles but requires a precise movement, such as writing, which I'm doing right now. The smaller muscle groups, or you can say buttoning of your shirt or typing in your phone, etc. Those can be considered a fine motor skills. And then the third here is the medulla oblongata here. By the way, when you refer to this medulla, it means just the soft inner part of anything. And so technically for the brain, when you're referring to the part of the brain, you should use the word medulla as well as this oblongata, medulla oblongata. This is precisely referring to the part of this part of the brain. So this is located, as you know, at the base of our brain, and then our brainstem, and it controls vital. Wait, I'll just write it here. See, it controls the vital involuntary functions. Example, your heart rate, your blood pressure, your breathing pattern, and then your digestion. It also assists in digestion. It also plays reflex control, reflex action. It also play part its role in reflex action, such as sneezing. For example, you automatically shut your eyes when you sneeze. So this type of things are controlled by the medulla oblongata. And then the fourth option that we have here is the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is this part of the brain that hypothalamus is located in the midbrain area. So what are some of the important functions of this is the fourth option for the important functions of our option D. The first is it regulates important body functions such as homeostasis, that is the temperature. It regulates the temperature. It tells you when you are hungry, when your body requires calories. It tells you when you are dehydrated. It tells you when to drink water. And then the sleep-wake cycle called the circadian rhythm, and also it controls the releases of hormones. It also has to do with hormonal activities from the pituitary gland. And then this, I don't think I have any question set on the pituitary gland here. The small gland, but the master, this is one of the most important gland. But I don't think I have any question set on this. So I'll just briefly explain this pituitary gland. And so this is called the master gland, just for your information, the pituitary. It's the master gland, and it releases several important hormones. And it can be divided into two part, that is anterior and the anterior pituitary and the posterior. Just Simply for you to understand, the anterior means this, the front side, and the posterior means the hind side of the pituitary gland. So the front side and the hind side have different functions and also releases different type of hormones. So some of the important hormones that is released from the anterior pituitary gland are the most common is the growth hormones. It stimulates the growth of our muscles and bones. And then the second important hormone is the thyroid stimulating hormone, the TSH. It stimulates the thyroid gland to produce the thyroid hormones such as the T3 and the T4, the thyroid hormones. And the third important stimulating hormone is something called the ACTH. So this is adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormones, and then it stimulates the adrenal gland to produce cortisol. Third is the fourth is prolactin. It also prom- promotes the milk production in nursing mothers, this prolactin. And the fourth here, I'll just write it on the left side, is the FSH, follicle stimulating hormones, and um, luteinizing hormones. These are some of the important hormones that is secreted in the anterior pituitary. And then as for the hormones of the posterior pituitary, it's oxytocin, which is involved in the childbirth as it stimulates the uterine contraction. And also this hormone, oxytocin, this hormone help in bonding between child and mother. Next is the ADH, the antidiuretic hormones. It's also called the vasopressin, and it regulates the water balance in the body by controlling the kidney function. It controls the kidney function. When there is excess in the water, it tells the kidney to work harder so that the excess water will be removed from your body. Okay, so this is just an additional part, although it's not directly related to our question. So if you can keep this in mind, it would be good. And coming back to our question, so based on the explanation that I gave right now, which of the following is the correct answer? Which part of the brain that controls balance and coordination?
Pizza.
Yeah, so our option here is B, the cerebellum. It controls balance and coordination. Next is the eye. What is the function of the iris? Iris in the eye. As you can all see, the different part of the eyes I have given here: iris, cornea, pupil, lens, vitreous, sclera, optic nerve, blood vessels, and retina. There are more parts, but these are the important ones here. So again, before we, excuse me. Okay, anyway, let's forget it. So what are the important functions of these different parts of the eye? So let us first talk about this cornea. The cornea, this outer part is the cornea. So this cornea is a transparent, and as you can all see, a dome shaped, and this is the outermost layer. Cornea is the outermost layer, and it it bends the light. As the light ray enters into the eye, it bends the light, and then see, just for instance, the light comes like this, so it when it hits the cornea, it bends the light like this, so that the image is formed here in the retina, here in the area of the retina. So this cornea is the first thing that bends the light. So basically, the main function of this cornea is to bend the light as it enters our eye. And then this bending of the light helps focus here in the retina region. So I'll just write here the main function of this cornea is it bends the light as it enters the eye. The second part is the lens of the eye. This is the lens. So the lens of our eye, this tissue is flexible. It's flexible, and it is also transparent. And then it is located behind the iris. See, this is the iris, and then it is located somewhere behind this iris. And then since this retina is flexible, it will adjust its shape, become thicker or thinner and longer, or thicker and shorter. It can adjust its shape. This lens can adjust its shape. And why does it do that? It adjusts its shape to focus light into this retina, focus the light into the retina. And so when it does that, it enables clear vision at different distances. So our eye automatically adjusts the incoming light in such a way that whether the object is at a distance or it's closer to our eye, this lens work in order to give a clear vision. And then the third is the pupil. Let's talk about the pupil. It's a black. This part, although it's not clearly highlighted here, but the pupil is this part, and this is the dark part of the middle of our eyeball. The dark part, the pupil, it's the opening in the iris, and it controls not just this along with the iris, but this pupil controls how much light to enter, how much light to be allowed inside our eye. So basically, pupil is the main function is to control the amount of light entering into our eye. Fourth is the next is the retina. So retina is a very thin wall. This part is a very thin wall and light sensitive layer at the back of our eye. See, these are very light sensitive layer, and then this contain all those photoreceptors that we will talk about later. And this layer convert light into light to electrical signal through the photoreceptor cells. There are different photoreceptor cells, the cone, the rod, etc. And then it sends them to this from the nerves into here, the optic nerve to the brain. And so that is how the image is formed in our brain. And then the optic nerve, the next is optic nerve. Optic nerve is it transmit, like I said, it transmit whatever is formed here in the retina. The optic nerves transmit those information into our brain for interpretation. And when we see something, we know what the thing is, because the informations here, the visual information are transmitted into electrical signals. Then the electrical signals are transmitted to our brain through the optic nerve. So that is how it works. So back to our question, what is the function of iris in the eye? The function of the iris here. This flexible tissue.
B.
Yeah, the main function of this iris is it controls the amount of light entering the eyes. Moving on to our next question. What type of receptor is present in the skin to detect the pressure? Any guesses here? What type of receptor? Simply from the options given here.
Thermo.
Yes?
C.
C.
Okay, so the correct option here that the receptor that is present in our skin to detect pressure will be a mechanoreceptor. Mechanoreceptor. And these are sensory receptors that detect it's a sensory receptor that detect mechanical forces. Like, example, mechanical forces like when you apply pressure to your skin, when you touch it, when you stretch your skin, and when something vibrates in your skin. So this is the mechanoreceptor is the common term for the different type of mechanoreceptors present in our skin. And one of the main receptor that makes us feel this touch, pressure, stretch, vibration is Pacinian corpuscles. This is the one of the main mechanoreceptor that is responsible for you to feel the pressure, touch, stretch, and vibration. This is the common term for different type of receptors that are given. And so some of the other receptors that are present in the skin are Meissner's corpuscle, and this is it comes into work when there is a light touch, very light touch. For example, if a feather touch your skin, or to detect a very low frequency vibration. And also there is yeah, just I think okay, we'll just stop from here as for the receptor. So this is also one of the part. There are also other receptors, but these two are the main receptors. And so with that, we move on to the next question. Which part of the ear is responsible for balance? I hope the figures are clear to you as well.
Yes, sir.
The diagram. Yeah. So you can take a screenshot, or if you want, I'll share this as PDF in the group later. But if you for answering the question right now, you can take the screenshot, because this is not the only question that is pertaining to the ear. We will come across the brain, the eye, and the ear, different type of questions later on, even later on. So you can take the screenshot of this and then answer the questions as I move on with the question also. So which part of the ear is responsible for balance? Let us first
Eardrum.
okay, let us first cover. Let me briefly explain the different functions of the ear, the part of ear that you can see here. So I may not be able to explain everything here, but I'll just explain the important ones. So first is the outer ear. The outer ear, as you can all see here, the outer ear. So the outer ear, there are different parts. First is pinna or auricle. You call it a pinna or auricle. And then as the sound waves hit your ear, it collects the sound waves, and then it direct them into the ear canal. The sound waves are directed by the pinna into the ear canal. So although this outer ear may appear useless to us, but it is for collecting the sound waves and then directing it into the ear canal. So This is air canal is also the part of the outer ear. It's part of the outer ear, and then this air canal, as you can all see, it channels the sound wave that is collected by the outer ear into the eardrum that you can all see here, eardrum. And then the eardrum up until this eardrum, it is considered the outer ear, as you can see here, the fine dotted line given here, because this is a membrane that is separating the this left and the inner part of the ear, including the middle as well as the inner ear. So up until this eardrum, it's called the outer ear, and eardrum is made up of tympanic membrane. And so what does this do? It vibrate like somehow similar to the vibration of the something, the membranous type of this covering, as you can all see in the speakers. In the speakers there are things like that, and then this part vibrate. I think you have all seen. So somehow similar to this, as it receives the sound waves, this eardrum will vibrate, and it converts those into the sound waves into the mechanical vibration. So this is basically the part of, I mean, the function of the eardrum. And after that we have the middle ear, the middle ear here. And the first part of the mm, okay, this malleus, incus, and then the steps or the stepes, whatever it is, these three are together called the ossicles. The ossicles, these are three small bones. These are bones, okay? The incus, malleus, and the steps, these are bones, and what they do is they basically amplify the sound vibration that is produced from here. They amplify the sound vibration that is transmitted to from here, and then after they amplify the sound vibration, the sound wave is then transmitted to the inner ear for further processing. And then this Eustachian tube also comes under the middle ear. And what this do is it maintains, this is important, okay? You just remember this. This maintains the air pressure balance between the middle ear and the environment, as in outside of the middle ear, and in the canal as well as the outside environment. So it maintains the air pressure. It balances the air pressure inside the ear so that the inner parts of the ear will not be damaged when we are exposed to the high frequency or the loud sounds. And then after that, we come to the inner part, inner ear. The first inner ear that we're going to discuss is the cochlea. It converts the sound vibration that is coming from the eardrum then to these ossicles, and then it goes to the cochlea. So it converts the sound vibration into anything that goes into our brain. Any sensory thing that goes into our brain, it goes in the form of electrical wave or electrical signal. So it converts this sound vibration into electrical signals, which are sent to the brain via the nerves, these hearing nerves for interpretation. And then coming to this I think it's not given here. Yeah, the semicircular canal here. This is semicircular canal, and then this is basically it. The function of this semicircular canal is basically to maintain the balance and the special orientation by detecting to maintain for balancing. It helps in balancing and special orientation. It detects this semicircular canal basically detect our head movement when it rotates or when it is moving in a straight line. So it basically detect the movement of our head, and then accordingly it tells the brain what to do and how to orient our body, how to position our body so that our balance is maintained, and then the special orientation. This helps along with the brain to balance the body. So this is the main one, is the semicircular canals, but also the semicircular along with the figure here is not very clear, so I'm unable to point out this thing, but I mean not everything is included here in the figure, but semicircular canal is part of this this whole part. It's not just this semicircular portion, but also you call it vestibular system. And inside this vestibular system, you have this semicircular canal, as well as there is something called utricles and saccule. So these are in combination with semicircular canal. In combination with this, it maintains the body balance. So in summary, basically the air not only help us to hear, but also play a crucial role in maintaining the body balance through this vestibular system in the inner ear, that is present in the inner ear. And it so this whole system of our ear, it works together to provide auditory as well as our spatial awareness, as in navigating. When you are navigating different type of terrain, climbing a stair, walking on a plane, and then going downhill, all those times your body is aware of the terrain and it helps to maintain your balance. So we come back to our question. So which part of the ear is responsible for balance? It's obvious, I explained just now, it's a semicircular canal. It not only detect, okay, see, semicircular, this will detect the rotational movement. Whereas utricle and saccule, this will detect the linear movement, and so they work together to balance our body. How they do it is they contain fluid. They contain fluid here. They contain fluid as well as the tiny hair cell that responds to the movement of our body depending on the position of our head. So with that, they send the signal to the brain through the nerves, and that is how we are able to maintain our body balance. Which structure, which part of the brain regulates the body temperature? I have already explained the different parts and functions of the brain, so you can give me your answer here. Which part of the
Hypothalamus.
brain? Yeah. The hypothalamus, it regulates the body temperature. Next is, okay, again, another question on the eye. So, which is the blind spot in the human body? Human eye, sorry, human eye. A blind spot in the human eye.
Number A.
Okay. Someone said number A. Any more guesses?
C.
C. Someone said C. N. Okay. Maybe someone might be thinking B also. And no problem with that. I'll just explain. So the correct answer, okay, let me just tell you the answer first and then I'll explain. The correct answer here will be a region without photoreceptors. Okay, photoreceptors is the blind spot. And so here, the rod, I have the photo of the rod and the cones later on in the another question, so I'll not show you that right now. But here, the rod, when you talk about the rod, these are photoreceptor. These are both rods and the cones are both photoreceptor. This is the common term for this rod and cones. Okay, so these are the photoreceptor cells that are responsible for vision. The rod, let me first talk about the rod. Rods, these are responsible for vision in dim light. When you are in a dim light, these rods are responsible for vision, and then they not only help you see in the dim light, but also they detect shape. It's good to remember at least a point or two from the thing that I'm explaining. As for the rod, it helps you see in the dim light, and then it detects the shape of the object that you are seeing, and also the movement of the object. However, the blind spot that we're talking about here in our question is not just because of the absence of rods alone. Even if the rod is absent and then you cannot see in the dim light or detect shape of the object or the movement, you can still, if you still have the cones, you see what the cone is supposed to see. So the first option is wrong because the blind spot is not just due to the absence of the rod. So if the other options are all rubbish, you can maybe give this as your answer. But since there's another option, let's go to the other options. And then the second option is a region without cones. What does this cones do? As I have already said, this is another type of photoreceptor cell and is responsible for color, detecting color and details of object in bright light. The cones help you see the color as well as detect details the details that of the object that you are seeing in the bright light. So although you may not see the color, although you may not see the details in the bright light, but this will not by default make you blind. So a region without cone is also not our answer. So the blind spot means that the answer here, it comes to our question, the blind spot is a region where there is no rods and when there is no cones, that is called a blind spot. And all of us have our blind spot. All of us have our blind spot in, all humans have blind spot in our eye. So the blind spot, also known as the optic disc. This region is also known as the optic disc, is a point where the optical nerve, it is the point where the optical nerves exit the retina. See, this is the point where the this optic nerve is exiting the retina. This region, the back of the eye is the retina. So this is the part where this optic nerve exit the retina. So in this area, there are no photoreceptors. There is neither rod nor cones. So it cannot detect any light that is incoming from this, that is incoming through the cornea into the pupil and to the lens, and then it was supposed to fall in the retina. But in this area where this optic nerve exits the retina, there is no optic nerve. That is why our eye cannot detect the light, and it creates a blind spot in here around this region. But one interesting thing about the human eye is that we are designed in such a way that we rarely notice this blind spot, or almost never notice this blind spot that we have in our eye. Why? Because the first phenomena of why we do not see this blind spot is the compensation by the other eye, and also the role that our brain play in filling the gap. So these are the two main reasons why, although we all have blind spot, we don't see our blind spot. That is, our humans have, the first point is our humans have a binocular vision. By binocular vision, we have two eyes, and then it requires both eyes to judge the depth, distance, and all those things. You can try with one eye closed, and then you can try going down the stairs, and then you will realize that with just one eye, it is difficult for you to judge the depth, distance, and those things. So since we have the binocular vision, that is why, meaning both eyes work together to create a complete visual, complete image that we are seeing. So it requires both eyes. And although both eyes have this blind spot, they are located, see, our eyes are not overlapping, and then so our eyes, one is on the left, the other is on the right. So the visual field for both the eye is different. So let's just say this is the eye, and the blind spot for this eye falls here, as but for this eye it falls here. So what this eye cannot see, the blind spot here, this eye can see, it covers for the other eye, as well as for this, what this cannot see, this will cover. So this is basically what the binocular vision means. So because of the compensation of the other eye, our blind spot, although it may be a blind spot to the left eye, it can be seen in the right eye. Although it can be a blind spot from the right eye, it can be seen from the left eye. So this is the first point. And the second point is our brain processes and interprets the visual signals. The visual signals that comes from the optic nerve to the brain, our brain will process and then it interpret. So even if both the eye misses the spot, our brain works in such a way that it takes the information. If this is the visual field and this is the blind spot, and both the eye somehow miss this spot, but our brain will take the information of all this visual field and then fill the gap and make it as if like we're seeing everything. So this is the second phenomena there. And this process is also called perceptual filling in. So the brain perceptually fill in the missing images and create the whole picture of this visual field. That is why we don't see the blind spot. Our answer here is, once again, a region without any photoreceptor. That is this part, that when these nerves, the place where these nerves exit the retina. Which part of the neuron transmits signal away from the cell body? This is a picture of a neuron. So which part of the cell, a neuron cell that transmits signals away from the cell body? If you know the answer, you can say it. If not, I'll explain the different part of
Dendrite.
The neurons given here. Yes.
Building.
Okay. Anyway, so the body of the cell, the main body of this cell, the neuron, as you can see here, is called as soma. And what this soma do is it is the, as you can all see, central part of the neuron, and it contains the nucleus. So this is an important information for you. The nucleus of a neuron is contained in the soma, or the cell body, the main cell body, and it processes the incoming signals from the dendrites as well as from the axons. So it processes the signals, incoming signal, as well as it generates the outgoing signal as in when required. The next part is the dendrites. This you can see is the tree-like extension, the root-like extension that you can see all over this body. That is, those are the dendrites. And then this, what does this dendrites do? It receives signals from the it receives signals from the neurons and other sensory receptors. It receives, basically it receives. So you just remember dendrite means it receives. And then when it receives this, it transmits those signals towards the soma for further processing. And for the axons you can see here, axon starts from here, from this part. This is the, basically the axons going up until these axon terminals. So these are the axon. This is the axon of the neuron. And then what it is, you can see here, it is a long and then slender projection that carries this dendrite receives, and then after processing and then based on the requirement, the different signals are sent to different part of the body. So it sent this. So just, even if you are unable to remember anything, just remember this: axon sends the signal, dendrite receives the signal, and it is the main body, the soma, that processes the signals. Okay. And then this, another interesting thing about this axon is it may be covered by this thing, that is fatty tissues, fatty cells. These are called the myelin sheath, as you can see here. The myelin sheath, which insulates, it basically insulates like the insulation that we find in our electrical wires. It basically insulates these axons. And what does the insulation help axon? How does the insulation help the axon? It speeds up the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath, it insulate to speed up the transmission of signals from the axons. And the end of the axons, it terminates into axon terminals, and these axon terminals are further connected to other neuron cells. It can be connected to anything. It can be connected to a soma, it can be connected to a dendrite, it can be connected to another axon also, these axon terminals. So that is basically axon. And then there, see, for example, this axon, if it connects to, I'm just drawing another axon, okay? So if it connects to another axons here, let's just say it's connecting to another axon, or for that matter, anything, any part of the other neuron, this junction is called a synapse. And a synapse of a neuron is where the one of the neuron cell communicate with the other neuron. Communication occur via this synapse, the connection between one terminal of this axon to the other to the other neuron, the junction between this synapse, and this is how they communicate with each other. And the myelin sheath, I've already told you, this is a fatty tissue, and then this okay, although it's not mentioned here. Okay, yeah, it's mentioned here. Schwann cell. Schwann cell are found in the peripheral nervous system. This is found in the peripheral nervous system, okay, the outside nervous system. Whereas if you go to the central nervous system, such as the spinal cord and the brain, this cell will not be made of the Schwann cell, but oligodendrocytes. If it comes to the central nervous system, it will be oligodendrocytes. And another term here is the node of Ranvier. The node of Ranvier, I'll just briefly tell you what this does is the gap between each myelin sheath is called a node of Ranvier. And so instead of covering the entire thing, there is a gap, and then the electrical signal will basically go through this. The movement is called a saltatory movement. Saltatory means basically jumping. A signal coming from this side will basically jump from here to here, since there is a gap. But this is for the faster transmission. It's for jumping of the signal. So, in summary, all you need to remember is dendrite receives, axon sends, and then this soma will process the signal that is coming, and then the myelin sheath that insulates the axon, it speeds up the signal, and a synapse, that is the junction of connection, the mode of communication between the different neurons. So which part of the neuron transmits signal away from the body? Away from the body will be
A.
axon, as I have explained. It sends, and away from the cell body, not away from our different, I mean, yeah, it's talking about the cell body. Which cell in the retina are responsible for color vision? I think I've already explained this. Cell in the retina are responsible for color vision.
One.
Okay. The cone, as you can all see here. If you visualize whatever you are learning, it will be far better for you to recollect later on in the exam. So you can keep a screenshot, or you can refer. As you study, you can also browse the pictures like this, see, so that you can visualize whatever you're learning, and it will help you recollect, I'm telling you. Okay, I'll just quickly explain something here. Cones are further subclassified into 3 different types of cells, and then this short cone, this is represented by S, medium M, long L, and then they are receptive to different type of lights. So the short cones is sensitive to blue, and the medium cone is sensitive to the green, whereas the long cone is sensitive to red light. So these cones, the photoreceptors are responsible for the color vision. There are 3 types, and then they are all sensitive to different type of color, different spectrum of color, but they all work together so that we can perceive different spectrum of color. We can observe, we can see and tell the different type of color. This is because of the coordination of these 3 type of cones. And is there anything to explain here? Okay. Which part of the brain is involved in memory and learning?
Number A.
Number?
Cerebellum.
Okay, any more guesses?
Number C. C.
Okay. See, that is why I think I mentioned earlier also. This the functions can be overlapping, but you don't need to be confused. Just have this thing. If it says memory and learning, I think the right answer here will be the hippocampus. Hippocampus. How does this work? It is look. How does this work? It converts short-term memory into long-term memories. When you experience something new, the sensory information is first sent into the hippocampus. The first sent into the hippocampus, and then it processes this information and then stores it. And then if it is to be stored for long period of time, it is transferred further into the other parts of the brain for long-term storage. How this hippocampus help in learning? It involves in learning by creating new neural connections. This process is known as synaptic plasticity. So even if you talk about memory or learning, it's not just one part of the brain. Some of the functions are overlapping, okay, but you have to see the options and then see which is more right than the other options, I think. So when it comes to learning, what the hippocampus does is it create new neural connection through the activity called the process called the synaptic plasticity. And then repeated experience lead to strengthening of this new neural connection that was created. And so if you strengthen the new neural connection and it is very strong, it stays there for a very long time. It also helps you recollect the memory. Recollect those new neural connections, the memory created with those new neural connections easily. So in other words, if you revise a certain subject for 10 times, it will be easier for you to recollect it even after a month than if you simply read it just once. Other regions of the brains are also involved in the memory. So this is the cortex of the brain. And then once memories are processed in the hippocampus, it is stored in the cortex. And this is for long-term use. Another question with the ear.
It's B.
Yes. Can you repeat?
It's option B.
Yeah, so the answer I have already explained, so I think I don't need to explain this. So primary function, this equalize the pressure between the middle air and the atmosphere. And so I'll just briefly tell you how does this work. When the external air pressure during maybe a change in altitude, or when you are diving, these tubes allow the flow of air into the middle air. It either allow the flow of air into the middle air, or it expels the air from the middle air. So by that, it ensures that if the pressure outside of the outside environment is more, then it allows the air inside so that it can maintain the equilibrium. If it's less, then it expels so that it maintains the equilibrium. And then by this process, it prevents the discomfort or pain inside the air or the potential damage in your eardrum. And this is also one of the another function of this tube is also drainage of fluid, the fluid from the inside of the air to the outside. And this is important for the for the maintenance of the health of the inner ear. Another thing is this tube prevent the entry of pathogens. Basically, it a protective function, drainage of fluid, and then equalize or maintain the equilibrium. These are three important functions of this tube. Which hormone controls the sleep-wake cycle in human being? Any guess?
Melatonin.
Okay, very good. Yeah, melatonin is produced by pineal gland. This is located in the brain. You go back and check the figure. It is located in the brain, and melatonin is produced especially in response to the darkness of the environment surrounding you, so that when the environment gets dark, it produces melatonin and tells your brain that it's time to sleep. That is why you tend to get drowsy at night than in the bright light. And some people, this work in such a way that you cannot sleep with the light on. So this is mainly because of melatonin. And the insulin, you all know, it is produced in the pancreas, and it basically regulates blood sugar level. How does it do that? It absorbs the glucose from the blood, and then it is used for our day-to-day requirement, the energy requirement. And then serotonin is also produced in the brain, and it's produced in the brain. This is also produced in the pineal gland, mainly in the pineal gland, and also this is also produced in intestines. Function is basically, you just remember a feel-good hormone. It is also called a feel-good hormone, and it contributes to feeling of happiness. So it regulates. Basically, what it means is it regulates the mood, the appetite, mood and the appetite. And by the way, serotonin is also a precursor of melatonin. It's a precursor. I already explained the meaning of precursor yesterday. So this is also a precursor of melatonin. And the last here is oxytocin. Oxytocin is produced in the hypothalamus. hypothalamus, and then the function is, it is also called bonding or the love hormone, this oxytocin. So it plays a key role in social bonding, in childbirth, in lactation, and also it promotes the contraction during labor. What causes myopia, nearsightedness? Anyone? You cannot tell the answer by this picture here. What causes myopia? Myopia, in other words, the nearsightedness. Elongation of eyeball. Yeah. Okay. So this myopia occur when the eyeball, you can see here, when this eyeball, instead of being round in shape, the eyeball elongates. And so if it was round, the image was supposed to form here. Let me choose another color. The image was supposed to form here, but since the eyeball has elongated, so the image forms, sorry, here instead of forming at the retina. So this is this condition that is called myopia. And so instead of the image forming at the retina, it is the image, the focal point, the image is forming in front of the retina. And what it does to your eye is you can see the nearby object clearly, but distant object will appear blurry. So the corrective lens to be used here. What is the corrective lens that we can use for the myopia? Anyone?
Concave.
Okay. Okay, so concave lens. Concave lens is, as you can all see, this is the concave lens. Concave lens. Concave lens, simple way to remember is the lenses that caves in. It caves in. So this is the concave lens. We use this, and so as you can see in the picture here, the third picture, it focuses the light information coming into our eyes so that it forms the image here at the retina where it is supposed to form. So this is how you correct the myopia. Another eye defect that we are familiar with is hyperopia, or the same term, hypermetropia. And in hypermetropia, the reason for the hypermetropia is the shortening of eyeball. And so instead of being round, it becomes shortened. So the image that is coming in the eye, instead of forming in the retina, it goes behind the retina like this. See? So of course the light does not go up till this extent, but it does not, the image formation is not taking place here, and then it is somehow behind the eye. So this is why this condition is called the far-sightedness. You can see the far object. If you see the far object, image somehow form here, but when it comes to the normal vision, it goes back. So you cannot see the object clearly in your normal sight, but you can somehow see the far off object clearer than the one which is close to the proximity. So the corrective measure here is the convex lens. The convex lens, specs, whatever it is. And then there is another defect in the eye called astigmatism, and this is because of the irregular shape of the cornea, irregular cornea. Irregular cornea or the lens. Either one of these has to be irregular, or both maybe, for you to have this as astigmatism. And then whether it is a distant object or the nearby object, the object will always appear blurry to you. So the corrective measure here is the corrective measure will be cylindrical lens, and it comes in various shapes. The cylindrical lens comes in various shapes. Okay, but the simple one will be, I think, yeah, this type of lens. This is very thick. It's somehow it looks like it is cut straight from the cylindrical shape thing. Oh, of course it comes in different shape also, but this is the corrective lens that you are supposed to use in case of the astigmatism. And there is another term, presbyopia. This is the age-related farsightedness, and usually in the other defects also you can use this, but mainly in this. Just remember this term, LASIK. LASIK is a short term for is a medical term. So you remember this LASIK. You can also go through, go and Google this, the abbreviation of this LASIK. This is a eye surgery, process of eye surgery, the corrective measure. This is LASIK. In most of the cases, it gives a long-term solution. So this is the process of eye surgery. You can go and Google the long term for, the full term of this, the abbreviation of this, and also you can maybe keep in mind this LASIK in case if they ask what LASIK is for. Is it for the eye? Is it for the eye? Is it for the brain? Or those kind of question may also be asked in the exam. So just remember this LASIK. I remember one of the question related to I don't exactly remember the disease, but I think it was related to AIDS. The process that was the treatment, the detection system that is used to detect the AIDS and HIV in the early stages. So those type of questions were also asked. So this can also be important for you. LASIK, that is related to the eye surgery. Which nerve controls the facial expression? I think this is very easy here. It's obvious from the options. This is the facial nerve. By the way, all the nerves given here are cranial. This can all be classified under cranial nerve. Although you may not require it, this is cranial nerve number 6, and then this is 2, and this is 10, and this is 5. I don't think you'll ever be needing this information, but just this facial nerve, it controls the muscles responsible for your facial expression, like smiling, or when you make that face when you get angry. Those kind of things, these are controlled by facial nerve, and they not only control this muscle movement and then the expression of your face, but also contributes to the taste sensation, and also controls, I think, the tear and saliva production indirectly. It influences. Which part of the brain is responsible for regulating hunger? Anyone?
Hypothalamus.
Okay, already explained, so I'll just directly go to the next question. What type of tissue forms the lining of the alveoli in the lung? The alveoli in the lungs. This is the picture of the lungs, and this is the alveoli. The zoomed part is the alveoli. And what this basically does is, I think I explained even yesterday, it is the endpoint of the respiratory system, and then exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. This alveoli. Cuboidal epithelium. Okay. It is found in the gland, such as the thyroid or the salivary gland. The answer, by the way, the answer for this is the squamous epithelium. Okay, squamous epithelium. And so the squamous epithelium, like I said, it's found in the alveoli. And then the another place where it's found is the blood vessels and in our skin. And then the next is columnar epithelium. These are found in the lining of intestine, stomach, and lining of stomach as well as uterus. Ciliated epithelium. It is found in respiratory tract, including trachea, bronchi, and also in fallopian tube. As for the alveoli of the lung, this is the squamous epithelium. Since we're running out of time, I'll just go quickly over the rest of the question. I still have 3-4 questions left. What is the main function of lignin? Lignin in plant cell wall. Anyone?
B.
B.
Okay, so some of its functions are it provides the strength and rigidity. So basically, if you translate this, it's the structural support. And by the way, they are complex polymers made up of mainly phenolic compound. What is the term for a symbiotic relationship between a fungi and the root of plant?
Mycorrhizae.
Okay, very good. The symbiotic, the term for this is the mycorrhiza. It's the mycorrhiza. So it is a symbiotic relationship between, as it says in the question, a fungi and the roots of higher plants. And ectomycorrhiza, as well as there are 2 types of subclassification of this mycorrhiza. So in ectomycorrhiza, the outside means it forms the sheet, and then it is the fungal part of the fungus covers the root. Yeah, basically, in short, I'm just writing in short. Fungus cover the root, whereas in endomycorrhiza, it penetrates into the root of the plant. These are 2 types of mycorrhiza. One is the ectomycorrhiza and the endomycorrhiza. The fungus, well, how is this a symbiotic relationship if the fungus is penetrating into the root of the higher plant? So it is symbiotic, which means They obtain benefit. They benefit from each other's presence. The fungus benefit by fungus since they are not photosynthetic, so they receive sugar, the glucose from the plant, and other organic matters also. And then I think this should be organic compound, other organic compound. And the plant benefit from the fungus as the fungus help to absorb nutrients. And these nutrients, these are especially the phosphorus, and not only the nutrient but water, phosphorus and water. The fungus help the plant to efficiently absorb phosphorus, especially nutrients, especially phosphorus and water. Not only does this fungus help in absorbing this thing, nutrients, but it also help the plant in such a way that it makes them more resistant to diseases. It also contributes to the growth, by the way. So the second, I want to discuss this option C as well. Nitrogen fixation, I already discussed yesterday. The lichens. The lichens, it is also a mutualistic relationship. It's a mutualistic relationship, and it is between two entities, that is fungus plus the alga. So how does this thing, the relationship, the mutualistic relationship work is one is the photosynthetic partner. One is the photosynthetic partner, whereas the other provide the absorption, the other help in absorption of nutrients as well as the water. And how does it work is the fungus will provide air. This fungus is not a photosynthetic entity, but it will provide air, protective environment to the other partner, that is the algae here. And the algae, or it's not just the algae, okay. The other partner can be algae or the cyanobacteria. This will, the function is photosynthetic functions, and then this produce the food required by both of them, whereas the fungus will provide a protective environment to the other partner while the other partner is providing food. So one interesting thing about this lichen is they are the first steps in primary succession. Primary succession. Primary succession, the term primary succession refers to the colonization of barren environment by vegetation, such as after the eruption of the volcano, the rock will be all bare, there will be no plant, no fungus, no algae, whatever it is. The rock will be just plainly a rock. But the first primary succession, the first step in the vegetation colonizing such a harsh environment is the appearance of these lichens. Lichens will be the first thing to appear in that soil, because the fungal partner are some of the fungus that Escomycota from the Escomycota. So they are very resistant to this type of harsh environment. So they protect their photosynthetic partner, and then slowly they break down the rock particles, and then that is how it creates some nutrition as well as the soil for other plants to thrive in that area. And so that is how the succession takes place in nature. So this is the first step, the appearance of lichens. And the last option here, rhizobium. Rhizobium is basically a bacteria, a genus of bacteria, not the species, but it's a collection of different species of bacteria. It's a genus of bacteria, and how it works is this is a, let's just say this is a pea plant, a soybean. So these are nodules. The nodules. So the rhizobium bacteria, it initiates the formation of nodules. It lives here and then it fixes the nitrogen for the plant and then derive other protection and other nutrients from the plant. So this is also a symbiotic relationship between a legume, especially a plant from the legume family, leguminous plant, plus the bacteria. What type of venation is found in dicot? Do you know the meaning of venation?
No, sir.
No,
Okay,
sir.
so excuse my drawing, by the way. I hope this does look like a leaf. So this is the leaf, and there are veins here. The midrib, this is called the midrib, the middle part, and then there are other veins that is coming out from the midrib, right? So the way these veins are arranged, basically how veins are arranged in a leaf. How veins are arranged in a leaf is called a venation. And dicot, I think you know the meaning of dicot, right? Acid that seed, not acid, a seed. I'm not talking about the chemical acid, okay? A seed that contain two cotyledons. Example will be peanut, badam. Badam contain two cotyledons and then they join together to form a seed. That is dicot. Di means two, cot means a cotyledon. So that is a dicot. And take for instance rice or anything from the grass family. Anything from the grass family, Posea family. We call it in scientific term, we call it Posea. A Posea family. So anything from the grass family, take for instance rice, a grain of rice. There is only one cotyledon. So those are called monocot. And this type of seed, badam, the peanut, the monkey nut, we call it different names. These are dicot. And we have dicots are most common because most of our sources of foods are dicot only. All the dal that we consume, the beans and everything, they are dicot. So dicot is more common as far as our fooding habits are concerned. The rice and the wheat are monocot. So that's the meaning of dicot and monocot. And venation means arrangement of veins in the leaf. How it is arranged, it's called it's parallel, reticulate, concentric, etc. There are different type of venation, so you can maybe check later on the other type of venation that I have not mentioned here. So reticulate venation is a network of interconnected branches. So without the leaf, I'm just going to draw only the veins. So this is a vein, the midrib. The middle one is the midrib, and Take for instance, leaf, or if you are not sure, you can check later on the dicot. They live, there are this type of the branches and then the sub branches, they are very much profusely branched, I would say. That is the term. They are very profusely branched. Is it in the dicot, for example, in pea plant, the veins are profusely branched, right? So those type of branching is called reticulate. They are profusely branched. And then so for the dicot, it is always reticulate. Not always, but in general. Yeah, I think it's reticulate branching. This is also a common term, reticulate. There are other sub-terms here also. So, but in general, this is always reticulate. As for the parallel, our option A. A leaf of maize plant, or let's just say a leaf blade of the rice plant. The veins are not branching, but it goes. That is the midrib. The middle part is the midrib, and the veins are like this, right? The veins in any grasses for that matter, not just the rice or maize or wheat, but for any blade of grass, the veins are like this. So this type of venation is called parallel. And for the concentric are, it's not very common, the concentric venation that you see in nature. It's seen in the water lily, as well as the lotus. Take for instance, this is a leaf. So from the middle of the leaf, you somehow see like this, the venation, one on top of the other, like that. Not on top, but one after the other, it goes like this. The symmetry goes like this. So, or it could even be like this. This is the meaning of concentric, one inside the other. So this type of venation is concentric. So that is the term. In dicot, it's reticulate, monocot, parallel venation, moving on to our next question. I think this is the last second question. I have only 20 questions for today, so I'll just finish it quickly. Is it okay?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
What is the main function of the endosperm in the seed? The endosperm in the seed.
E.
Yes.
Provide nutrition to the developing embryo.
Yeah, this is the main function. And then the embryo, it protects the embryo, means the protection is mainly done by the seed coat or the seed coat. This another term is, I think it's called the testa. The seed coat is also called testa. So the protective function is done by the seed coat. This the green part, the very thin part, and then this epicotyle, hypocotyle, radical. These together are called embryo. Okay. These are the part that will grow into a new plant. And then as for these cotyledons, the whitish part, embryo also contain the nutrients, different form of nutrients, of course, but this is also a nutrient reserve. So it provides nutrition to the developing embryo. Until and unless this embryo part grows into the leaf, and then it starts to photosynthesize and start manufacturing their own plant. Plant have a mechanism to support their seedlings up until that stage. So this basically the seed that we're eating, the nuts, everything that we're eating, those are the food reserve for the plant, for the young embryo to develop into the mature plant. What are the characteristic feature of a gymnosperm? This is a classification of a type of tree, okay? Type of tree. So I think you can just later on Google more information if you want, but the gymnosperm just basically it means naked seed. And there's another term, angiosperm, seed coat. So in a gymnosperm, what you will find is basically there will be no seed coat. This seed coat will be absent. Of course, the structure of the seed will also be different. For example, the example of the gymnosperm will be pine cone. There is no seed cover. So this is basically gymnosperm and angiosperm, all type of seeds that have seed coat. And the angiosperm, it's another defining criteria between the angiosperm and gymnosperm is this is non-flowering plants and these are flowering. By default, if it is non-flowering, then there will be no fruit. Directly seed formation. There will be fruit production and after that the seed production. So which is the characteristic feature of the gymnosperm will be naked seed without fruit. That will be all for today, and from the next two classes I'll try to take up physics and chemistry. The questions are the way I'm conducting the classes will almost be the same, except that in the last day that will be a short class for solving the PYQs, solving and explaining the PYQs. But as for tomorrow and day after, I will try to cover a class on physics and a class on chemistry. But the way I'm taking the class will be the same only. I'll just make a question and then as the terms and definitions that you need to know comes along, I'll explain. Okay, so that will be all for today. Thank you all for attending today's class. Have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Bye, sir.